are standing 11,034 meters below sea level at the bottom of the Bermuda Trench.
In the vastness of a space spanning around 139 million square miles, there exists the deepest point on the planet, the Mariana Trench. Notably a prominent location on the Earth, the trench itself is just one of the many interesting wonders that haunts the ocean. From strange sounds and frequencies heard from a distance to the potential discovery of ancient leviathans and more. Welcome to the mysteries of the ocean. In 1997, an ultra-low-frequency, high-amplitude sound was detected deep in the ocean by the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They called it the Bloop. This phenomenon was captured at a remote point in the South Pacific Ocean near the tip of South America. It baffled the scientists of NOAA, who had never seen any readings remotely close to the Bloop's magnitude. In the words of Dr. Christopher Fox, a leading geophysicist working for NOAA,
"Other things in nature that make that sound are blue whales, for whatever reason. But very quickly we understood that when we looked at the volume of the sound, certainly it was much louder than the loudest animal sound we are aware of."
Dr. Fox, along with his colleagues, believed that the sound was produced by a large aquatic life form, stating,
"To produce a low frequency, you have to be something big."
The sound potentially proved to be one of the most, if not the most, powerful calls an animal had ever made on the Earth. Though in 2012, NOAA concluded that the sound was most likely caused by glacial movements, it is still theorized that the glacial explanation is simply a cover-up for the entire incident. This becomes more interesting when you learn that Fox himself initially theorized that the sound was from ice calving in Antarctica, only to then believe that the sound was too animal-like to not be a living creature. Similarly, in 1999, a new sound was captured by the NOAA, nicknamed Julia. The sound was captured close to the coast of Antarctica, between Cape Adare and Bransfield Straits. Similar to the Bloop, it shocked the scientists of NOAA, as they believed it was potentially a massive animal, only then to come out with a similar conclusion to the Bloop, that it was most likely caused by large-scale glacial movements. In the end, even with all the facts laid out, it is still interesting to wonder whether or not the sounds were truly made by an animal. And if so, what animal? August 6th, 1848. The Daedalus, a warship used by the Royal Navy of the United Kingdom, was sailing between the Cape of Good Hope and St. Helena. This is when the crew encountered what they would call a serpent. Captain Peter McHugh, along with the rest of his men, noted the serpent was swimming near their boat with about 4 feet of its head above the water. The crew remarked the beast had a dark brown skin tone with yellowish-white coloring around its neck, and estimated that the rest of the creature could have stretched up to 60 feet below the water. This encounter lasted about 20 minutes before the serpent left the sights of the crew, leaving the Daedalus crew mystified. This mystery lingered in the minds of many up until 2015, when evolutionary biologist Gary J. Galbraith contended that the crew of the Daedalus did not encounter a serpent, rather a sei whale. Accounts agree that the animal was swimming along with its head fully out of the water much of the time. The behavior happens to be consistent with the feeding behavior of sei whales. Galbraith would go on to elaborate that if the creature was not a sei whale, the next option would most likely be a rorqual baleen whale, recounting. The animal seen from the frigate Daedalus on that faithful winter day in 1848 was almost certainly a rorqual whale, feeding at the surface with its mouth open. That would presumably constitute a puzzling sight for many mariners of either the 19th or 20th century. While both options are equally as likely to be the truth behind the encounter, neither explanations account for the mention of the potential 60-foot body length that the crew reported the creature having. Furthermore, both potential whales mentioned have noticeable fins and tails that the crew of the Daedalus would easily been able to note in the 20-minute-long encounter. There is simply just not enough information to establish a final conclusion. Cadborosaurus. During the early 20th century, there were often reports of a supposed sea serpent sighting near the Caboro Bay in British Columbia. Reports describe what they would eventually be nicknamed the Cadborosaurus, a serpent-like body with a long neck and a horse-like head. While many sightings had been reported all throughout the century, claims varied in their description of the creature, and some sightings are even proven to be other animals entirely, with further investigation. In 1943, an initial reported sighting of the Cadborosaurus turned out to be a bull sea lion and its herd following behind it after witnesses investigated deeper, utilizing binoculars. Though it has been speculated that every sighting of the creature is actually witnesses confusing other animals for the Cadborosaurus, it is still strange how there have been multiple accounts describing the same horse-like head and other similar features. Footage taken in 2009 by fisherman Kelly Nash also adds an interesting angle to the speculation.
There's a whole family of these darn things.
Last year, he shot this video of what looks like a sea monster.
Okay, just keep watching. Now watch, its head's gonna come out. Its head's gonna pop out. Check this out.
It's blue. So those aren't sea lions. You've seen sea lions. Held up. It's got humps that are...
They're 20 to 30 feet long. They're long, skinny things.
Oh, that is no. What the heck is that?
In the footage, you witness what is seemingly the serpent described, swimming in the waters of Nusuguk Bay, Alaska. It is important to note that Nusuguk, Alaska is roughly 1,600 miles from the initial location of Caboro Bay, leading to further questions of if this was potentially another creature entirely. With all information laid out, It is not clear as to whether or not the Caborosaurus really existed, or whether it is developed through myth alone. In the end, it is left for you to discover your own conclusions on the legend of the Caborosaurus. Between the sun-drenched islands of Bermuda, the shores of Miami, and the streets of San Juan lies a stretch of ocean in which reality seemingly begins to blur and shadows deepen. The Bermuda Triangle. The Triangle is a place where the familiar turns strange, where compasses become inconsistent, where the line between what is known and what is feared becomes indistinguishable. For over centuries, the Triangle has been hailed as a center of unexplainable activity, with ships and planes disappearing and crews along with them. The ocean here seemingly swallows anything that dares to enter its territory. But why is that? How is that? Let's explore the mysteries and incidents that gave the Bermuda Triangle its infamy. July 9th, 1945. Thomas Arthur Gardner, along with 11 other crew members, set off on a routine radar training flight in their U.S. Navy PBM-3S patrol seaplane. While the initial half of the flight was on schedule, with nothing out of the ordinary, by 1:16 a.m. on July 10th, the flight suddenly lost contact with the Navy air station. While efforts to re-establish contact were attempted, ultimately the flight was lost right near Providence Island, after which the crew were never heard from again. December 22nd, 1967. A Miami hotel owner and yachtsman, Dan Burak, set out on the ocean in his cabin cruiser named Witchcraft. He set out with an associate and priest named Patrick Horgan. Sailing about a mile off the coastline, Burak and Hogan wanted to view the Christmas lights visible from the shoreline. However, later that night, the Coast Guard received a distress call from Witchcraft, stating that their propeller had gotten caught in something under the water. The Coast Guard told Burak to light a flare in roughly 20 minutes post-call, but that flare would never be shot into the sky, as it was from this point on the Coast Guard lost contact with Burak. Arriving at what was supposed to be their location and only a short time after, Burak and Hogan, along with Witchcraft, were nowhere to be found, seemingly swallowed by the ocean. The search for the boat, along with the two passengers, continued over the following days, turning up nothing, and ultimately, the case was left unsolved. Late July 2015. Two teenage boys, roughly 14 years of age, set out on a boating trip in their 19-foot boat. The boys, Austin Stefanos and Perry Cohen, set off on their boat in what would seemingly be a normal fishing trip. However, the two boys never returned home. Despite the Coast Guard launching a 1,500 square nautical mile wide search, the boys were never found, with only the boat turning up a year later off the coast of Bermuda. The incident remains to be a tragic reminder of the dangers of the ocean, as well as serving as a dark stain in the haunting history of the Bermuda Triangle. These events encompass just a tiny amount of reported cases of the Bermuda Triangle. Although many individuals throughout the years have come to speculate that the supposed mysteries of the Triangle are a result of geological conditions as well as weather conditions, It still doesn't quite answer why this area lays claim to so many ships, planes, and lives throughout its history. With its legend spanning vastly throughout the minds of many, it's safe to say that the mysteries of the Triangle and the overwhelming amount of cases recorded will remain just that, a mystery. In the expansive space of our home's ocean lies thousands, if not millions, of undiscovered mysteries. From the unexplainable disappearances to dark, haunting leviathans, the ocean proves to be one of the most interesting environments worthy of exploration. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you'll consider coming back in the future for more. It not only helps the channel, but it supports me and motivates me to make more of this kind of content. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.